Hello there, and welcome to episode 5 of my tutorial series for Songs of Syx. I'm Icon, and today we're going to bake bread. This is going to be the major topic of this episode, and this is the first time that we're producing something that doesn't need only one ingredient. Bread needs grain and coal, because you need to bake that stuff, obviously. So we're going to introduce this kind of production cycle in this episode, and where there's major topics, there's always minor topics. So we're also going to set up the artists industry district over here. So we're going to start to build some infrastructure for that as well this episode. Now, let's get started. First things first, let's cover the topic of coal. There are several ways of getting yourself coal. Obviously, you can mine it, but I'd be not recommending that too much early game because mining is a very workforce intense business, and the only way to cut down drastically the amount of people you need for efficient mining is by staffing them out with tools. Another day's topic. We're not going to go down that way. I can explain that, how it works, once we cover mining a little bit more. But that's one method. The other method is to get over there and get yourself a charcoaler. This region would be pretty good for that because we have a huge forest in our vicinity, and we're definitely going to set that up in the intermediate process. But for now, I don't want to introduce the charcoaler directly because we have other building projects that are more urgent. A warehouse, for example. This guy we're going to use later to get free from the import, which is the third method and the one that I'm going to use for this episode. Because we're going to import ourselves coal. I've already assigned a crate for that, I hope. Yes, I did. So we're also introducing a full amount of import for now because I want to have a full crate of that stuff. After that, we're going to reduce the import level gradually while we're producing our own coal, but for now, we want that like that. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to export leathers because I got more than I managed to produce at the tailor's shop. I mean, my tailor is basically, well, do I even have a tailor? No, I don't even have a tailor yet. Oh, I do. The tailor doesn't really manage to consume that much leather. When you mouse over this place here at the consumption, you see the previous year had a consumption of 19 units. The previous year, our hunter produced 622 units of leather. We can easily export a larger amount of that. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to allocate a couple of extra crates because obviously we don't have enough storage capacity, and that's something we're going to change very soon too. But the other thing now is we're going to manage that export. I don't really want to export all of my leather, of course. That's too much. We're going to go for, let's say, 50%. Half of the leather I got will be exported, the other 50% we're going to keep for ourselves. That's still way more than we need, but it's going to work for us just fine, and I hope that this way we're going to be able to afford our coal imports that we're going to need. Now, with that out of the way, let's get the next little topic going. I want a warehouse on this side. In the last episode, I've already decided that our artisans are going to do their thing here. Our agriculture will happen somewhere here between the river and so, and this will be where our people will live. The city core will be somewhere down here-ish. And that means this place here needs at least one warehouse, most likely more than one, but we're going to start with one. No megalomaniac plans for a beginner's tutorial series. So I want to introduce to you guys the room copier. A real nice and nifty tool. If you have a room design that you like, you can just pick it up and drag it over where you want to. You can also rotate these rooms, so there's a lot of freedom. And we're going to place it down here. Let's widen the road here a bit. Yeah, that's okay. And with a room copier, I really love to just widen the stretch of my of my city. It makes the rooms look pretty samey, but, well, that's up to you to decide. But I really like it to not feel too busy with that. You can also put these rooms into blueprints, but I'm going to introduce that at another day, because the blueprint system has been introduced not so long ago, and I gotta admit, I'm not too familiar with it myself. I do know that you can't just save all these blueprints and reuse them, but how that's made, I'm going to share that in another video once I have freshened up my own knowledge there. So, while our warehouse is being built, we're going to get into our research tab. As you see here, we're producing research just wonderful fine, and we're going to get down to the bakery. So we're going to do this, and now we can create a baker. Another thing that crossed my mind, which would have been a nice introduction for that kind of refining as well, would have been smeltering. This has been introduced in another comment, and I really second that. So you basically can also rush towards the smelter technology and import yourself coal and ore and make that metal yourself. It's cheaper that way, and you have a vital supply of a material that you will need along the way. Lots of. Metal is a basic material. A advanced, well, okay, it's maybe not a basic material, but it's the most basic of the advanced materials, let's say it like that. You'll need it lots of places, and therefore it's a cool thing to have a production on your own. I've decided to not go like that because I wanted to introduce the trading system earlier on. I just wanted to mention that this is something that you could have done pretty early on as well. And another thing that I wanted to introduce between the lines was that, where was it hiding again? Here. In this menu, you can also buy and sell directly by making a custom order. So the custom order does not need an import depot and allows you to just buy stuff out of the ordinary. You don't need to do the importing, and that's another method to get yourself minuscule amounts of something. Like, for example, the materials to get a smelter up and running, a very small amount of metal and the like. Just wanted to mention that here. You can do the special order thing. Now, that being said, let's fast forward a bit and get that warehouse done, because you guys know me, I don't like to have too many projects at once running. So our productions now are going better and better. Probably we are going to need another food source very soon. I mean, beyond the obvious one that we're building right now, because our community is growing and growing, and I plan to introduce more and more people. The bakery itself, well, let's see how well we can get it running. It's more of a demonstrational thing, and usually I would not recommend to do a bakery as one of the first things you do. But for the sake of the tutorial series, I found it quite fun. And the other thing is, I'm running a human populace, and humans love bread. So, you see, that's that. And also worth mentioning, a copied warehouse also copies the settings, so it's a pretty neat thing. You can really keep a lot of stuff going there. So, but this warehouse, the first things first, I want to have crates for stone and wood. Let's make 10 of these each, because we really need storage stuff, storage area for that. Also, let's go for leather. Let's make also 10 crates of that. We can now disable the other smaller storage quite soonish. So we got that stuff, and now we're going to bring up storage for bread on the other side of town. So let's see. Our traders are bringing in the coal that we're buying. Wonderful. Okay, I've already set up bread there. Brilliant. Okay. Now, we got grain, we got coal, let's start baking. So, in itself, it's not necessarily anything different from what we've did so far. But what we're doing now, and that's something that that's going to differ from my building style before, we're going to build bigger now. Because bigger is better. Even if you don't use the entire room, allocating the space beforehand only leaves a nice blank spot for the future, so you don't need to worry about that too much. So I'd say my first bakery, we're going to set up shop here. That's by all means not large. That's actually pretty small, but it'll do for now. So we're going to go over to stone. Here, kudos to the great comment who pointed out the difference between wood and stone in terms of construction. So the difference is maintenance. Stone doesn't degrade as quickly as wood, so your janitors will have to work more in a wooden city and less in a stone city. Also keep in mind that buildings made out of stone need to be maintained with stone, obviously. So this means that only build with stone if you are comfortable with your income. Otherwise, if you're only relying on stone that's deposited on the above ground, it'll deplete at some point. Your janitors need that stuff to repair, and at some point you'll come to a point where you either import stone or get yourself a deposit. I'd say without a deposit, it's a hard thing to actually build with stone, but you can always import, and there's lots of things to fix these problems. But more about that along the road. I just wanted to mention the issue. So here, we're going to set up a oven for, let's say, 6 employees. If that format is available. We don't have this. Let's do these. This one. I keep messing up with the keystrokes. So 4.8 of these guys. We can expand that like this. Yeah, it's okay. It takes some practice to get a good feeling for building these rooms, but I personally feel like these posts here are quite important because of the extra material that you need for maintenance. The thing is, a wide room without these posts doesn't only need a little bit more building material, but it'll also need more maintenance material. If material is none of your issues, you can go crazy, but I just want to... I'm here not quite sure what the ideal approach is. I'm going to be honest here. I'm open for input. So we're going to put up the auxiliary oven. Let's put it up like here. And we're at 100% efficiency. And this is going to be the first stone building that I'm going to build, simply because I feel like a wooden bakery sounds silly to me. It's one of the buildings that I personally would definitely want to have built out of stone if I can, so we're going to do so. Now, let's get ourselves some extra hands and start working. So here's one thing that's quite important though. We have adjusted our imports wrongly at this point. Now, we don't want to fill this entire new size of our warehouse. We just want to fill up 10%. That's all. And as soon as the wood industry is kicking in, well, we're going to swap over to charcoaling nevertheless. There's one cool thing about wood. It's a replenishing resource. These trees, they regrow unless you build something on top of them. Otherwise, they will always be returning. So therefore, your supply of coal is quite endless. Deposits in the mountains are pretty endless too, as far as I've seen things. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. And therefore, it's really not that hard to get a sufficient supply of that stuff. It's only hard to get the workforce up and running to get the ball rolling. But we're going to make the charcoaling happening after the bakery is up and running. So we have a nice building progression here. A lot of workers are available, and here we go. So the bakery is kicking in. We'll have to see if our production of grain is withstanding the consumption of that thing. That's the first thing that we gotta do. And the next thing, like it has been brilliantly said, don't go for auto-employed. Auto-employ is most of the time really bad. It's almost always better to think about it by yourself, what you're going to do. For example, we've seen that the oven has a capacity of 4.88 employees, so 5 employees will do the job just fine. The AI wanted to allocate 6. Lo stupido. Now, our dudes will now grow happier and happier, and you can see here, there is, let's see, food preference. That thing is now filling up, because we're providing bread. And every one of these meters, the higher you get it up, the more people want to live in your city, and the happier your populace grows. So alone the production of bread kicks in another micracy boost. But with food, it's very important to keep one thing in mind. If you can't produce that stuff sustainably, the happiness will drop as soon as the stockpiles are empty. So be careful with that. And if you want to improve your citizen count via food, keep in mind it must be a steady supply. Speaking about steady supply, let's do something else here. We are really close to rivers here on this map. Let's make use of that. So obviously today's episode is a lot about food. So we're going to go all the way up here and set up a dirt road, and we're going to introduce fishing, because humans love fish, and therefore we're going to get up and set ourselves a fishery here. So let's see, that's for 8 workers, and we could easily expand that down the road here. Perfect. So like all the other businesses, you're just going to set up auxiliaries and storage there. The storage is just to store locally the stuff, so people can pick it up and transport into the warehouse. Now, let's do this. Nice large fishery, because your city's capacity is strongly relying on 2 factors: food and happiness. These 2 factors are the main pillars that your city's capacity is residing on. That's pretty a devilish thing too, because the moment your happiness starts to plummet, the capacity of your city population-wise goes down, and if you have more population than the actual capacity of your city, it can become quite bloody. People might revolt. Just saying. We're going to cover that a bit more in detail later, but I just want to say that every service you provide for your city must be something constant if you want to grow upon it. Such things like harvesting something only once and building something with it, and needing, like, for example, if I haven't had enough coal supply for the bakery, that would be a nice example for that, or not enough grain. That's why I'm not picking up any further immigrants right now too, because I can't rely yet about my bread income. I want to put up the charcoal first before we get up a couple of extra people there. The fisher here is a nice alternative to that, because fish is making humans happy. Let's set up some crates for that here at the warehouse too. And now we can easily sustain ourselves for the remaining time. This place here should yield a nice income of food. Okay, so we're out of odd jobbers pretty much. Let's hire some more people. And, oh yeah, we have unlocked a new level for our city. So 50 people is unlocking a new level. And new levels give you a happiness bonus. So the more people are living in your city, you get a little bit of a leeway to make things a bit easier. Just a tad bit. Now, I feel like the charcoaler should be definitely in the vicinity of our woodcutting business. So we're going to put this up here, right next to the forest. So maybe a little bit off this place. Let's go here. Also making this whole thing a bit larger. Although, it ain't really large. Quite far away from being large. So there we go. And let's get ourselves our charcoal business going. So here we need, oh, we need for the first time some clay. Alright, we have to import that as well. So here I'm going to set up some shop for 5 workers yet again, because I find that a pretty appealing size. And here we go. So this place here will need some clay. We already know how to fetch ourselves that, so let's go. Let's do this via a special delivery. So 41 clay we're going to need. I've never done this like that. Ah, here. So we're going to need 41 units. That's 15. So there's not more available right now. Oh, no, I don't have enough money for it more. Whoopsie! Well, we've got more than enough. Wait a sec. Yeah, we've got more than enough material available to export, so we're not going to run into any troubles here. It's just gonna take a while. Gonna wait for the denaries to come back in, and then we're going to buy ourselves that stuff. So as you see here, our economy is growing more and more complex. But as long as you keep focused on things that make your people happier and focused on a nice and steady income of food, your expansion is standing on good feet. As far as I can tell, at least. And one other thing that always crossed me with this game was that it's pretty important to grow carefully. Basically, it's really, really important that you that you take care that you don't bite off more than you can chew. That's a pretty nasty thing in this game. When you're growing faster than you can afford, and then bad things happen. So our charcoaler can't be finished because of a lack of clay and metal. I mean, with time we will fix that, because we're right now just preparing our export. And here, of course, our stockpiles are larger now, so we have to change the formula here as well. My bad. But for now, we're just going to use the material we're producing via the hunter to fuel our economy here a little bit. So I'll set up some extra crates for clay now as well, and metal here too. So little by little, the other warehouse can just retire. Okay. So now let's just I'm just waiting for the next caravan to come in with a nice, tasty blob of money, because it can't. There are no resources to sell. So Yeah, my bad. I read this bar the wrong way. Great tutorial, 10 of 10. Sorry guys, stuff like that happens. Of course, when exporting, I need to define how much I want to export of my total stock. And here I want to define how much I want to fill my stockpiles. Well, okay. No tutorial episode is complete without a sudden moment of confusion about what you're doing. That's just a side effect of all the explanations. That's the knot in the brain. Okay, so now stuff should work though. We're starting to export things, and it's going to take a while now, of course, sadly. But as you see here, material has already arrived. We only need 20 clay more. Maybe we can finally afford that. Obviously not. Okay. I'm poor. Well, if I wouldn't have messed that up, it wouldn't have happened. Well, our economy is now at least going somewhere. Our people are definitely holding out. We're stable. And I'd say I'll just finish this thing between the episodes because it's just waiting for a little bit of money, and we've seen now where things go. So bringing up these materials has helped the city tremendously. We're going to introduce new things in that regard pretty soon. But my next big step, and that's pretty much the preview for the next episode, is I want to set up new housing here as well. Or I want to introduce it and start producing the necessary materials for that. Flat houses are just outright more beautiful and making people happier than the regular dormitory, and they are a real big step up for the city. So this is going to be what we're building in the next episode. This is, of course, linked with other tasks, but let's see. There's one thing that I'm going to look for right away, and that's a teaser. We're going to look for some wild cotton. There it is. Because we're going to create ourselves some fabric, and no fabric without cotton, you know. So we're setting up a cotton farm, and then here the money has finally arrived, and then I'm going to set up the charcoaler in between. As soon as the charcoaler is running, of course, we're not going to need to import coal anymore. We're just going to produce that by ourselves. I just wanted to kickstart my production with that to get through the topic of today's episode. Okay, so we're buying that clay, and we're going to buy ourselves that metal as soon as we can. Alright, so next episode we're going to create housing, and I'm going also to... my plan is also to introduce a little bit more about we're going to go a little bit deeper into the services menu here. I want to talk about that and introduce that deeper. And most likely we're going to do something in between there as well. I'm pretty sure that I will come up with something, but housing and services is going to be the next big topic. Okay, so thanks a lot, everybody, for all the cool attention and positive vibes that I've got from you guys. I'm baffled how much recognition the series has so far. I'm really grateful for all your helpful comments, and I'll do my best in the future episodes to implement as much of that knowledge directly here in the videos, because, you know, I myself consider me as a rookie with attitude. This game is very deep, and I've never made it way beyond 1,000 people, so this is also giving you an impression about where this tutorial series will probably stop before I'll do a new gameplay series to learn a bit more. Okay, enough about that. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a preview of what's up to come, and drop me your comments down below. Leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and know that this help here is really meaningful. You guys wouldn't know how much the algorithm loves these thumbs up. And yeah, have a good one. Thanks for your time, and see you soon.